There's a live.
Yes. All right. Hi, Carol, Hillary, and Aaron. Welcome back to the Policy Committee. I realized that I did not get an agenda together, but the main reason we're coming back today is to talk about complete streets and continue with our work there. Where we last left off, I have a note here that Hillary, you're going to look at and confirm the process on how this would get before the mayor and commission, because you will be gone, which we will not dwell upon too much in the moment. There's Craig. Welcome, Craig.
Hey, Craig.
Yeah, so what will happen is that you guys will finish whatever version that the AIM Commission all agrees on, and then that will need to go through Director of Public Works, Tim, Stephen, all of them. And they will do the work session, not you guys. Citizen committees don't do work sessions, don't push through agenda items. So this is going to be an update to a policy that that oversees public works, then it needs to go through the public works process.
Okay. Thank you for that. Did anyone else have any questions about the process?
No, but I will say that I've spent like the last 3 or 4 hours re-immersing myself in complete street policies and reading examples and all my materials and everything else under the sun. So I will let you know that. All that. Yeah. And I'll just go forward and say this. I don't know what process you're wanting, Lauren, but I kind of feel I think I started by looking over what we have, and then I looked over all these materials and examples and the 2 top tier ones and the one from Savannah, and then all the things about writing a good one, and it all, finally several years later makes sense to me why we're having a complete streets policy in terms of how the government works and everything else. But I think our policy, I think what we have as a draft needs to be sort of shaped together more. We were working on little parts, and we were also looking at some stuff from the old one. And so I think it can be shaped together. And I will, depending upon where we go with this, I will volunteer to do some of that based on all the stuff I just reviewed again, if we want to go in that direction. I don't want to, but anyway, that's my update from my 4 hours of street review.
So Carol, are you saying that you want to start all over, or you want to have more conversations about what we have? Did you identify areas that we're missing, or are you saying that there's an issue with us having started with the current complete streets policy and that we just need to start fresh?
In my gut, my feeling there is like a little bit, I wouldn't say of both, but I know there was like one phrase that you had in your part. And I was like, oh, why does Lauren have this here? And then I pulled up the old one. I was like, oh, she has it there because it was in that first one. And it didn't make any sense. Like, it was a phrase, the interdisciplinary approach. And as a writing teacher, I was like, oh, we don't need that. We don't need that part. And then I saw that it was in the other one. I also, I guess, from looking at all of the policies, see the consistency in all of them and the places where there need to be some differences. So I haven't gone back and looked at ours together, like after having looked at all of the stuff for the last couple of hours. But anyway, it's like ours looks like a draft and needs to be pulled together, and basically I'm volunteering to follow up and pull those pieces together and more as much as we want, because I want to move this ahead as well. And I still, it's been a long time and we've had COVID and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's sort of like getting your head out. And then I open up this folder of my, this binder of mine, and I had, oh man, I really had a lot of stuff here. I didn't even look at that stuff. So, and I saw some policies that were, I think, more concrete and specific in certain areas. And I guess I am saying now, you might be way ahead of me and Craig and Aaron and Teresa, but I think that from having read all this stuff today, I've understand. Basically, I just put the hours in to get a fuller feeling of it than I had before, since I've just spent so many hours on it.
I appreciate that so much. I know, just going back to what I just want to make sure, because we talked about before about not like redoing the whole thing, because diplomacy and the fact that other people have worked and put a lot of time into this, and we don't want to alienate them. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that we're not going to rewrite the whole thing, right? Like, we're not just going to throw out the old draft and start anew.
No, but
Right.
I wouldn't, what year was that in?
2011, 2012.
Yeah, because it really may just be Allison that's on there. I mean, because I was going over this with someone else who was on the commission, and it's like no one else is on the commission and there then. And I have a feeling by the time I'm on the commission, that we're not going to get this passed before I'm on the commission. And so immersing myself in it is helpful, because I will be the advocate for it among the commissioners and understanding it all better. So it's wonderful that I spent this time doing this, about the need for that and how it fits in. It's like, so I think we also want to I want to make sure that it makes perfect sense to someone who's looking at it who has no experience with this at all, or just understands the concepts, and that it flows and reads. So I think there's plenty of stuff to keep in there. But my personal feeling is, I don't think politically, I think that the more important thing is to have a product that is a good update and includes all the updating parts that it needs to have in it, and makes sense as much as possible.
Yeah, did you have additional thoughts on that, Aaron? Because that your point was, I was going to underscore that too, that our initial strategy had been to keep some of the form of the former Complete Streets policy, so it didn't seem like it was a completely new document. But yet, to Carol's point, who is this going to be? It's going to be new for everyone.
I feel that we definitely need to change some things and update some things and make it a better document. I do feel like, though, it carries some weight to say that we're building off of what was initially created by the commission. Well, I still, no matter who's on it or who's not, I still think that carries some weight with it.
Well, I think what one could do, if I were doing this, I'd highlight all the stuff. I'd highlight all the original again to make sure we see what's in there. So I could work on that, but I don't know what the process is that would work best here. I don't want to take over here.
Can I say something? I've got an echo. Sorry.
Okay, can you hear me? Not.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I had to call in because my audio wasn't working. I just want to ask the question, and I apologize for being late. Why would we not want to rewrite the whole thing? I think the original document is extremely
weak and incoherent and doesn't have any teeth to it. So I'm just going to throw that out there. And
because there's still people like Alice Kinman who's still very involved. She's still and T-Splosh still very involved in pushing forward the same agenda we want. And the fact that I'm sure they got input from other people involved in bike ped policy that can still be advocates moving forward too. I don't know all this. I just know that there was discussion about building off of what was there because there's still a framework there we can build on. We don't always need to reinvent the wheel, and we need to make sure we're diplomatic about it and keep those people in the fold, not alienate potentially anybody that did work on this before, could still be advocates for the program moving forward.
I think there's plenty that one could include in there from the original, but that made I think one can do that, and I haven't gone back and looked. I'm just offering to spend more time on it and try to keep as much of the original. I feel like that's as and pulling it together. I'm also. I'm just going to say this because it's like a question that having just watched a Frontline last night about Biden plagiarizing. I'm starting to meet with the manager's office people, and in my transition to commissioner, and I just wanted to ask them what the feeling is, what the general, I guess, thing is on cutting and pasting, from other documents, which is what we did when we put together to some degree, when we put together the RFP for the bike pedestrian master plan. I would assume that it happens a lot. There's a lot of good parts. Yeah.
This isn't academia. We're not. These are government documents. This won't be plagiarism. They put this together for future groups to meld and to improve upon. I don't think there's any worry about that. Nobody would be. But I think there'll be things from them to move this forward. Yeah.
I guess one
Have
could.
y'all looked at some of the existing complete street plans that are in force in some of the other municipalities across the country?
Because we looked at Savannah and some other similar policies. Yeah.
Yeah, Savannah's hasn't passed yet.
This is why I'm saying a rewrite. It doesn't have to be a throw the original in the trash. It can be just take what's good in the original. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but just reframe it a little bit.
I agree, and I just want to be careful that we're not saying that the other one was junk, because it's not.
No.
Potentially, or at least just completely starting over again from scratch, because I think it does have more weight no matter who's listening if we say this is a document that has been worked upon over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. My problem with it is it sounds like it doesn't know what it's doing. It sounds like it's trying to explain to itself what it is, rather than saying this is the policy. So under these circumstances, the following things have to happen. And there are exceptions, and these are the exceptions.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like we could take the content, the good stuff, which there's a lot of good stuff in there, and just kind of reformat it using another municipality as like a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
And there's also a couple of, from Teresa, what I had said when I started this off was I just spent about 4 hours looking at complete street stuff. And there's a couple of I'd get to something and go, oh man, this is really good. Now this makes sense. Now it all makes sense. It's clear. And so, and that's like one of them actually that you just put up there, Craig. I think it was in the chat. Craig just did it. That was one of the places. But I had a couple of good examples and the templates that are there and seeing how it's all put together. So I think there's I think we can work on those two things together.
Carol, are you concerned that the way that we've approached the new complete streets policy, we might be leaving things out, or that the format is not as current as it could be?
Well, there just are, I mean, obviously it's cut and paste, right? So right now it's not sort of like worked together as one document because we worked on it in different places. I'd have to go back and look over it on the process but I realize really as much like there's a wonderful, I think it might be from Complete Streets or from one of these other things where there's a rating chart, yeah, from Smart Growth and a rating chart. And I looked over that rating chart and read all the examples. And then I just printed out the 2 Complete Street policies from 2018 that got the highest ratings, and looking there. And on a personal level, I will tell you that I did not uh, um, this is the most concentrated time I have spent on Complete Street policies the last 4 hours, focused rather than 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, bookmark that, just like focusing in. So I feel like I have a better grasp to go back to it, like right now, and work on it.
Yeah, I would love to have a policy that was like top 5 in the nation, like Athens-Clarke County, top 5, inclusive, has teeth. You know, it's not just, oh, it'd be nice.
No, I think it could. I mean, I think it could. I just was looking at the grading sheet, that's there, and it's very like some of the stuff has felt fuzzy before, and now when I looked at a couple of examples and more templates, it all felt very like, okay, I can make this like I've turned over to a certain place where it all is. I have more confidence in myself now looking at the policies to understand what's good and strong and what needs to be there.
All right, so how do we move forward? How do we get this done? Our strategy of delegating is useful because we all have been able, or the folks who are part of this group previously have been able to contribute. We, divvied it up. Elliot has donated his time. What do we do moving forward to get something passed and have it ready to show before the commission sooner than later? I mean, by like early next year.
Oh, yeah, the Athens mission. Well, I will volunteer to take a stab at the writing, pulling what we have together, using my more thorough understanding of all the parts from these examples that I've looked at, and shape it more. I think it needs, there's pieces in there. It just needs to be sort of shaped and see where there's some missing parts or not. And I can get that chart, the evaluation chart. We can get that out and put it in, and we can each grade it independently. We can make a draft and we can grade it independently using all the criteria of that smart growth use and see what's missing or not missing.
We have a grade. We have are you talking about grading the rewrite or grading the old policy?
Oh, the rewrite, the new one, the one where you're saying like, when I looked at all the, the ratings from the last year, they have top 10, but really it's like the first 2 or 3 that have a 90 or above on this grade, rating, or 80 above. There's a lot that are in the 60 range. So and they're actually if it was being made into a rubric, I mean, the criteria all right there. And so it's not anything, they're pretty straightforward, actually, when you look at it. It's not as fuzzy as I would have thought. It's like, okay, that's there or not there. We need so it would be easy to go evaluate it by that rubric, those criteria after the fact.
I'm resending that document just so y'all have it, just so everyone can see it, just in case everyone lost it before. And for folks that aren't familiar, Smart Growth America is like the parent organization, and the National Complete Streets Coalition is like a project of Smart Growth America. So a lot of times it gets confusing because they're kind of interchangeable in a way, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot, for providing that clarity and for resending that. It's also in the
Mhm.
our last complete streets policy. But I think that, Carol, I do like your idea. I just want to make sure that we have a plan to carry forward, and that it also isn't all on you, Carol.
Well, at this point, though, I don't feel like it's like, I feel like I've just done this studying, for the test, and I could take the next step and work on something together. And then we could, that would make sense rather than taking another, like using where I'm at. And I also feel I have, there's a benefit for me to do this just because it really gives me a firm understanding to explain this all to other commissioners and the public as well. I was just doing some volunteering for Jonathan Wallace, and there's a woman who's like the coordinator of the volunteers, and she was in my district, and I didn't even know I voted. She voted. I mean, I don't remember talking to her, but she voted for me. And she was like, I said, "Do you know what complete streets are?" And she's like, "No, I have no idea what you're talking about. No idea." And she's very involved politically and such. So the more I can, if I have a better grasp on it, that's going to help as well. And that's sort of an investment. It's like, Jesse and I have been meeting with the managers, and Jesse's like, "Thank you, managers." And the managers are like, hey, don't thank us. This is an investment for us. The more you guys know and the more we have relationships with you, the better for us. So in a sense, this would be a good investment for me, because it would, there'd be the follow through, like in making sure that it's in land use, or the private, like even the question about how it applies to private development. I have to have a firm understanding there.
Hello. As you know, I will input on private development. This would not have any impact on private development. That is a completely separate process.
Oh, a lot of them, but a lot of them do say include that. Okay.
Yeah, but in Athens-Clarke, that is a separate conversation to have with planning on ordinances. It needs to get through our legal team. Okay. So this policy specifically would apply to Athens-Clarke County funded projects, not private development or impact private development.
I saw Elliot nodding his head sadly.
Well, I mean, not that it's an impossibility, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through if you actually wanted to include that here, and that's other communities. It's different, but that's something longer conversation.
Let's just say your timeline just got a year longer if you wanted to get
right,
this
yeah.
private development.
It could be next to it.
Huh?
Thankfully, private developments in Athens are not building a whole lot of new roads,
right?
Other than that one like Hickory Street or whatever that was built at the Mark. Other than that, private developments are not building a whole lot of new roads here or retrofitting older ones.
Yeah, if you wanted to do anything relative to private development within this complete street policy, we'd have to pause, and I need to go get planning.
Okay.
Because right now we've only been talking about public works.
It's fine. I was just, I was just influenced by these other policies I read. That was just a little clause, and that can just be taken out of the subject line.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking about that, Carol, because I'm sure that, the public would have questions about that too. Like, what about these developers and stuff, these capitalists coming in? What can we do? So it's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bit of a tangent, and I don't want to go off on that tangent, but I just know Hillary has such good, my impression is that she has such good understanding about, and she had mentioned that way back, and I was so intrigued by this, and it came up in our last meeting, but as a policy issue, perhaps to tackle on down the way is how to get some teeth, how to get greater impact from private development into this overall scope, how we do that. But obviously that's a long process, but I have a 5-year term, so maybe that could be the goal for.
Oh yeah.
over the course of 5 years.
It's worth looking at when the mayor and commission do debate private developments that they are required to have transportation plans. It's worth looking at them because usually they will talk about bike ped somewhat, but it's mainly focused on like level of service for automobiles. So like when there was a proposed development on what is on Williams or like kind of down the hill behind, I guess on the other side of the Mark, the planning department went through and did like a transportation study, and it, the proximity to the Firefly and everything was raised, but there weren't many recommendations made in that plan to actually access. So that's another way that, again, it's a different jurisdiction between planning and TPW, but it's worth looking at things like that just to know kind of what's actually been happening or what they have talked about previously.
Are you talking about the Little Oak Street development?
No, it was Williams, I think. What was the one that was supposed to be like, it didn't happen. It was like behind Nucci's, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They had a transportation study associated with that, but again, it happened in some ways exclusively in planning, and it was all about LOS. It wasn't really about much else.
Well, I'm meeting in my orientation role with one of the planning commissioners, and I just said to her, like, hey, is there any complete streets language in any of that plan and stuff? And Jesse and I are visiting planning. We do have an orientation with them, so I will like innocently bring this stuff up and ask them and see what the response is.
Okay, next steps. So Carol, you had the idea of divvying out parts of our plan and having the plan as we've written it, as we worked on it, and grading it ourselves?
No, I had a plan of taking it and shaping it a little bit more, like working on it on myself a little bit more through the lens of the person who just read all this stuff and looked at the examples, and through the teacher part that wants to make sure it's not repetitive and that it makes sense to people who aren't that familiar with complete streets, that it all reads smoothly and includes all these parts. So I would, if we give me a deadline, I would do that in the next week.
Any more discussion about this approach?
And then the idea would be then to share it. My thing would be then to share, like say, okay, this is what I did. You guys go in there and like, what do you, play around with it, the language, and make changes. Then we get it to another draft. So I'm taking one draft. I'm just doing some revision of the draft. Then you guys look at it, make some, comments and additions, subtractions, and then we say, okay, now let's grade it. Do the, let's really be serious about looking at the rubric as well. I mean, we'll be thinking about the rubric, obviously, all the parts that are in there, but as a final check of the content and what's included in it.
I was just making some notes about our plan. What do y'all think?
I mean, I think it's great. I appreciate, Carol, you taking the first,
It's a second or
third. What now?
It's a second or third swing at it,
Well, I know we've been working on it, but yeah, still, I appreciate that. It's certainly gotten tougher now that we can't sit down and really discuss it in person. It is more challenging, sure.
Well, I think I could probably get it into a little bit better shape, like of pulling it together, and then we could actually, people could make comments on it individually, but then we could also we could look over it as a group again, and pull up the document. But I think it needs a little bit more work before we do that.
Okay. Yeah. It's definitely easier to talk and leave comments about something that's a little more complete. And I feel like that this group of Athens in Motion commissioners is really great about giving feedback and making revisions. And I know there's a lot of things that we ended up with. I thought, oh, that's great, and then someone will come through and make some changes, some additions, and I'm like, oh wow, it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
And I can reach out, Carol, with you. And so the woman that used to run the National Complete Streets Coalition, who actually came down a couple of years ago and spoke at our summit, and she's been very helpful in Georgia. She left to move back to Seattle. I don't know if they've replaced her. I don't exactly know what's going on, but I can reach out to them and basically see if they'd be willing to look at some draft language just to see how they would evaluate it, what it looks like relative to other policies, et cetera. So they can hopefully still be helpful. I mean, Emiko might still be able to do it, although she, again, is no longer with National Complete Streets. But yeah, I'm certainly willing to do that and help you with some of the language as well. But just try to get it in front of people that have good eyes for this stuff.
Well, and if I do get accepted into that Champions Institute, that'll be like a, I mean, that could be the project, except for it would be done before. Hopefully it'll be done before my next project, if I got accepted into that institute.
Yeah, Elliot, who did you say you were going to try and see if they could look at the draft language? Who was it?
Woman named there's a woman named May, M-A-E. Her last name it's Hanzlik. She's the program manager for National Complete Streets now. She might be the only person on staff that even answers a national. I don't know who the staff. I don't know if they've hired an executive director to replace Emiko, who again, Emiko is the woman that did the evaluation that I just sent y'all a few minutes ago, and she worked a lot with us. So I'll write to May later on today and try to get a sense about whether, because Savannah might want this as well. So yeah, it would be helpful, I think.
Thank you, Elliot.
No problem.
Elliot, do you know where Savannah is on that? I think we talked about this before, but do you know where
the policy that I shared with y'all? I think they're trying to get it to being brought to council right now, to their city council right now. Okay. They have someone kind of like you who actually just took office, I think last year, who is gung ho on these issues, and so I think, but they have an engineering department that is significantly more behind the times than ours is. So.
Because we have a really good transportation and public works, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Question. Sorry.
Voice.
Sorry, I've got two different things going. I got the phone and the computer. Elliot, I guess you would be the best person to know. Is there anything happening at the state level about creating a kind of statewide complete streets policy?
Well, we have a complete streets policy through GDOT. So yeah, so that does exist. Implementation is not always great, and that's always a challenge and a struggle. I think in some ways their complete streets policy has a lot of the similar, how shall I say, shortcomings of maybe our current policy does, in that it's good language and it sounds solid and it does get implemented sometimes, but then it's not as thorough as it needs to be. And so, but again, that only applies to state routes, and a lot of that work is through the GDOT district offices, which are their own. There's its own level of politics, and then in terms of what large projects get funded, I mean that's its own. That has to do with our MPO, which we haven't even really talked about yet, and how our MPO decides on projects and what's in the tip, and all those sorts of things. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always willing to talk about sort of the state issues, but again, you start getting into, for instance, if we have Broad Street, which we would all recognize, right in front of my office here, which we all would recognize, someone trying to cross the road at Chase Street and Broad, which I try to do all the time when I leave my job, like that's really difficult. It seems like this Broad Street should have traffic calming on it. But of course, our complete streets policy, when the street was repaved, they didn't actually talk to Athens-Clarke County about, there's a lot of different, certain things aren't kicked in with the policy, like lights or crosswalks, and there's a lot of depth there. I'll share the complete streets policy for GDOT in the chat just so y'all can see it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So our next Athens in Motion full commission meeting is October 27th. So do we want to, Carol, you asked for a deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to get something on the calendar. Can we do a different day?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know Wednesday doesn't work for folks. I can start making Thursdays happen again. I'm having to pull back from my Thursday thing.
I cannot do Thursday night.
Ooh, shut down. Okay.
What can you do, Hillary?
Literally any other evening.
Oh,
I have a class Thursday night.
Not to get all up in your class, Hillary, but what's your cutoff time for Thursday evening, like before?
One second. My class is from 4 to 7.
Okay, got you.
So other folks can't do Wednesday, all right?
I can do Wednesday.
I can't do.
I can make Wednesday happen.
Craig can.
Or Monday. That's a little soon there.
That often interferes with T-Splost for the Monday night.
Oh. On Monday the 11th?
I generally can't do Mondays.
Oh, okay. You can't do Monday, Thursday. Oh, that leaves Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday's fine for me.
Wednesday works for me.
I would love Wednesday, actually. Make it work. Okay, so we can do a Wednesday? Anyone wish to object or say that they can't?
Typically Wednesday. What are we thinking of? Wednesdays overall? Are we thinking about Wednesday for? Is this just let me make sure? Is this shifting our Tuesday monthly meeting to Wednesday? Is that right?
For this policy committee?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's I was just trying to get this on a different day.
Okay.
At least one.
Yeah. Wednesdays typically work for me too.
So Carol, if we could do like Wednesday the 14th, which would be 2 weeks from now, or Wednesday the 21st, which would be 3 weeks.
No, definitely not. Let's say Wednesday the 14th, and let's make a little schedule for me. Like I could get it out by Friday the 9th. What is next? Like next week is Friday the 9th, right? I could get it out, like that would be my due date, and then you'd have time to make comments and like say this is like great idea, Carol, but let's go back or whatever. And what I'll also do is I'll save the draft as in a new document. So I'll leave, I'll just start I'll just copy the document. So we don't lose what we started with.
You guys don't have to change this for me. I got a work event that night. It's rare, but I've got a work event, so I can't do the 14th. But I can certainly comment beforehand on what you do. So
on the 14th, I'd like you to be there.
Yeah, it's fall recruiting time, and we just have some often weird events this time of year, but that's one of them.
Sure. So Carol, was there a reason you didn't want to do the 21st? Is it just because you wanted to speed things up?
Yeah, we could do the 21st. We can do the 21st. I'll still have this other deadline.
Okay.
Hey guys, thanks.
Sure.
I've got to run to an appointment. Sorry, y'all. I was a little late and I got to check out. Thanks. I'll catch up the next time. Okay. Appreciate it.
Bye. Okay. So Wednesday the 21st, 5 p.m. And Carol wants to keep her deadline of Friday the 9th.
Yeah, I'm going to try that.
Okay.
I think I should just keep it all in my head.
All right.
10 points for being late. Every week, there's 10 points automatically off the grade. Okay. Okay, so that's the 21st, and I'm gonna have you something by the 9th.
Great.
And then our regular meeting is the following Tuesday?
Yes, it is the 27th.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. On my calendar.
Okay.
Were there any other items we needed to talk about besides the complete streets policy? Okay, gang.
Okay.
It's 5:45. I guess I will adjourn this meeting.
Great.
Great. Nice work, y'all. We're going to do this. We'll have an award-winning policy. First place.
All right.
Clarke County 2021.
We'll get there.
All right.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Peace.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Hillary. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Hillary.